If you're alone, this story may shake your heart deeply. Turn off the lights. Take a deep breath, because terror is about to knock at your door.
It was a night thick with fog, the kind that turns streetlights into hazy halos and muffles the sounds of a city that never truly sleeps. In a modest house on the outskirts of Istanbul, the Yilmaz family Murat, his wife Selin, and their two children, Imre and Elif, were settling into what should have been an ordinary evening. But that ordinary night was about to shatter. It started subtly. Doors creaked even though no one had entered or exited the rooms. The children complained of shadows moving independently, always at the corners of their vision. Emre swore he saw a dark figure staring at him from the hallway, vanishing when he turned to confront it. Selin tried to dismiss these incidents as childish imagination, but deep down she felt the chill that something unseen had entered their home. Murat, rational and skeptical, laughed it off at first, yet even he could not deny the change in the atmosphere. The air became heavy, suffocating, as if each breath carried a weight meant to crush the spirit. Cold spots appeared in random corners, frost forming in places that had never seen winter. Objects moved, sometimes subtly, sometimes violently, as if the house itself had grown alive with malevolent intent. The first major incident occurred late one night. Murat awoke to the sound of whispers echoing through the house. He could not make out the words, but their tone was sinister, filled with promise of doom. The whispers grew louder, and then the lights flickered violently. Shadows danced across the walls, twisting into grotesque shapes that seemed to leer at him. When he tried to rise from his bed, an invisible force pressed him down, pinning him to the mattress as his heart pounded in terror. Selin woke to a loud crash from the kitchen. She found the floor covered in broken dishes, yet no one had entered. She felt a sudden, icy hand brush against her shoulder, and when she spun around, the room was empty. The children screamed from their bedrooms, claiming the figure had been there, just standing, staring, watching their every move. Days passed, and the family's terror escalated. Shadows became more aggressive, moving with intent, shaping themselves into horrific forms. Murat's physical strength proved useless against unseen forces. Sometimes he would find himself lifted off the ground, slammed against walls, leaving bruises and scratches that seemed to appear from nowhere. Selin began having nightmares while awake, hearing whispers in languages she could not understand. Commands that urged her to open doors to invite the darkness in. The children were tormented in the most terrifying ways. Imre described seeing the figure of a man with hollow eyes, long black fingers reaching toward him from the corner of his bedroom. Elif awoke one night to find herself floating above her bed, held by unseen hands, the air around her thick with the smell of sulfur and decay. Seeking help, the family contacted a local imam known for his experience with possession and jinn. The imam entered the house with verses of protection, candles, and holy water. The moment he stepped inside, he felt the impressive weight of the entity pressing down. His voice trembled as he recited prayers, yet shadows danced around him, forming terrifying shapes and whispering threats in guttural tones. "You cannot escape. We are inside you. Always, the jinn was not just a presence. It was intelligent, cruel, and patient. It seemed to anticipate every prayer, every action, countering them with increasing force. Lamps exploded midair, chairs were hurled across rooms, and the family was physically assaulted repeatedly. 𝐂𝐮𝐛𝐞 screamed as invisible hands yanked her hair, leaving deep welts. Murat tried to protect the children, but they were lifted and thrown with supernatural strength. One evening, the family discovered the source of the curse, an old phone linked to a dark ritual that someone had performed in the house long before. They moved in. The ritual had summoned the jinn, and now it had latched onto the family, feeding on their fear. Every call to the phone brought the jinn closer, every message a whisper of doom. The imam attempted an exorcism, reciting prayers with all his strength. The entity retaliated with terrifying force. The lights exploded, shadows formed humanoid, monsters that attacked the family, and the air turned suffocating. Murat felt invisible hands pressing into his chest, trying to crush his heart. 𝐂𝐮𝐞 was thrown across the room, barely catching herself. Emrah and Elif screamed as the jinn manifested through the walls, their faces twisted into the hollow eyes of the entity. Hours passed like days. Time lost meaning as the house became a hellscape. The family fought with every ounce of courage, but the jinn was relentless. The apartment seemed alive, its walls breathing, expanding, and contracting with malicious intent. Whispers promised eternal torment, promising that if the family did not submit, their souls would belong to the jinn forever. In desperation, the family destroyed the cursed phone and burned the ritual notes. The jinn screamed, a sound that shook the house and the very bones of those inside. Shadows writhed, forming monstrous shapes that hovered over them. The children were barely conscious, terror-stricken. Shinar, Murat, 𝐂𝐮𝐞, they had survived physically, but the mental scars would haunt them forever. Even after the entity vanished, the house remained cursed. Neighbors reported strange sound doors opening and closing by themselves, whispers in the night, and shadows lurking just beyond the windows. Some claim to have seen a dark figure watching from the corners, its eyes glowing faintly red. The Yilmaz family moved out, but the memory, the fear, and the presence of the jinn followed them. Every call, every shadow, every whisper could bring it back. The cursed house remained a beacon for malevolent forces, waiting for the next family to fall into its trap. The story of Dabbe 2 is a warning. Some rituals and dark forces do not die. They linger, they wait, and they hunger. And somewhere unseen, a jinn still watches, listening, and waiting for the moment it can claim another soul.
What waits behind the door, you'll discover in the next video.